Without the tennis ball.
How do we throw things at you?
If Jill can't hear, please use the mic. Okay, it's live now.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome.
Sorry, Chris, you need to mute your microphone.
Just get rid of our technical gremlins. And try that one more time. Right. One voice, no echo. We're good. We're good. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us tonight on Zoom and here in the Town Hall chamber. This is a meeting of Freeman Town Council's Council Matters Committee. My name's Lizzie Boyle and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. We want to make sure our meetings are available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So we're using a hybrid setup of people in person here and people on Zoom. We apologise if that's a little clunky and you from time to time get little bits of feedback, which we will try to resolve as we go. For those in the room, a little bit of housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the corner of the room behind me and the assembly point is the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right hand side and there's an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. For panellists on Zoom, please use the electronic raise hand by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. Those in the room can raise your hand and we'll try and get to you as quickly as we can. For any attendees on Zoom, please put your questions through the Q&A board. Your names will be visible on the board for the record. So those attendees in the room, please raise your hand. So tonight, Paul's going to talk for us. Laura will manage the slides in 10 minutes. We know. Cool. Sarah's managing the questions, participants and all the IT and has hopefully now given you a slightly better audio experience than you were having. The meeting is being recorded for minuting purposes and we are live streaming to our YouTube channel. That is the end of the opening page. Hopefully you all have your agendas in front of you. Item number 1, if we're all ready, is apologies for absence, declarations of interest and approval of minutes from the previous meeting. So Paul, any apologies?
Yep, we've got apologies from John Nelson, Nick Dove, Mark Dorrington and Andy Palmer.
Great, thank you very much. And any declarations of councillors' interests? I see any hands? No, all good. Great, thank you. And approval of the minutes, which are here, and I will need someone who will propose approval of the minutes. Rich, thank you very much. And second by Anne, thank you. And all those in favour of approving the minutes. And Steve doesn't vote on this committee. And
Rob, do you?
I was absent, so I can. I have to abstain.
No problem at all.
So that's majority.
And I will sign these. First one. What on earth is the date?
I don't know.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So we move straight on to item number 2, which is questions and comments from members of the public and from councillors. Jill, hello.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
It's lovely to see you.
Thank you. Can I, through the chair, bring the attention to my last meeting here, which was concerning the Daily Mail picture of scruffy, weedy room. And it was mentioned at the time that Chris Stringer would have conversations with Mendip District Council and Somerset County Council. Were you able to have conversations with them?
Yes, I'm happy for you to answer that now if you.
So yeah, we've had a council forum, in fact, so councillors of all three councils have met to discuss, and we're looking at the ways in which we might be able to address that. Those are conversations with Mendip about particularly the street cleaning, but also with the hoedown and the community effort to see what we can do.
I spoke to Shane Collins regarding the hoedown, and this was really to do with the St John's churchyard, because that is it's not the council's problem. They don't own any of that within the forecourt and around St John's Church. And I did mention that he might come with his hoedown group, and I got really very little interest in wanting to do it.
Okay, so the churchyard itself is maintained by Mendip by way of their
The church
contractor.
forecourt is not Mendip's responsibility. The churchyard is, but not the forecourt.
Okay, I mean, in which case we're looking at the church then, so there's a separate discussion perhaps with them.
Yeah. I mean, Frome is still looking weedy. I'm not sure that anything has been done as a result from that national picture of Frome in the Daily Mail, published August the 27th. But when I brought it to the council's meeting, none of you had seen that picture. None of you had known that it had been, demonstrated that it was a weedy, scruffy town. And where was our civic pride?
Yeah, please.
You're absolutely right, Jill, that we didn't see the Daily Mail article, so thanks for bringing it to our attention. I think it's one of those tricky ones at the moment with the various councils and private owners like the church not doing their bit, really. What we try and do with our estate and our responsibilities is to ensure that they are managed well. What Chris and I and others, and particularly the other Mendip councillors, have been trying to sort of get together to find a way through this. It's something that we're concerned about, but it's not something that can happen really, really quickly.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, there are other towns who are looking just as scruffy and weedy, I'm sure, because this wilding and wildlife situation is all very well in its proper situation. But, weeds growing along the side of road isn't going to attract a bee or a butterfly, and it just makes it look scruffy. And I think it's such a shame that Frome looks like this, particularly as it has been noted by a national newspaper. I think really that ought to be taken on board by the town council, that you have been pinpointed.
Well, the town has been pinpointed.
The town
council is doing its job.
I know the council is there to do work on our behalf, but the town is pinpointed. Yeah.
I mean, as I say, we are trying to find some solutions to this.
Yes. Can I bring up another subject?
Of course, yes.
Has there been any more interest in the co-op shop where the post office is for anybody moving in?
Paul, do you know?
I don't know, actually.
Right.
I haven't heard of anyone.
Because Peter Wheelhouse was saying that there was somebody,
I mean, there are lots of rumours and gossip going around, as I'm sure we've all heard. But
so nothing definite.
As far as I know, there is nothing definite to report back on the old co-op building.
The last I heard, there was the lease that the co-op had ran until sort of the end of September or something. So you couldn't actually have anybody new in there apart from the post office. That was what I understood.
I know, but you see, we're still being told that post office is only temporary. I mean, it's being organised from Portway Post Office. So, it's still not a permanent structure in there, is it? No.
Let's hope somebody moves in soon.
Well, anyway, can I bring item number 3? It has been, this is the last time, you won't hear from me after that. I belong to a knit and natter group, and a few of us met up the other day, and they live on Rossiter's Road and the Butts, and there have been some really special, rather serious traffic management issues on the Butts regarding a Charlton's wood lorry. I mean, there'd be double yellow lines down both sides of the Butts. The people who live on the Butts have got a rear access. I would have thought the traffic could be, needs to be a clear road. It's so narrow and you've got cars mounted on the pavement. And when you've got these heavy lorries coming from Radstock, hoping to get to the bypass, they've got to come up the butts.
I know it's something that we've been aware of for a very long time.
I mean, Somerset County Council or Somerset Highways needs to really,
absolutely, and one of our
really ought to take that on board. It's such a dangerous thing.
Scott Ward has been looking at it and working with the residents along the butts to come up with some solutions to it that will work for everybody. Unfortunately, he's not part of this committee, so I can't report back on where he's got to with that, but maybe we can just find you a bit more about that.
Yeah, I'll find out some more where Scott has got to, but also John Clark, who's the county councillor and therefore the councillor for the Highways Authority.
Right, okay.
I know they're both talking. I just don't know the latest on it, Jill. But we'll come back to you.
Okay, right, that's it.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments that aren't on the agenda from Andy, other councillors? No, all good. All right, thank you very much. Which moves us on to number 3, which is an update to the Freedom Town Council safeguarding policy, for which I will hand over to Laura.
It's a bit strange being the one talking and not typing. Yeah, I mean, it's a very short report. I've recently looked at the safeguarding policy and compared it against the Mendip District Council one, which they recently updated, just to make sure that all of the guidance is up to date and correct. So I think I suggested some very tiny amendments, which hopefully is all okay. So safeguarding is becoming more and more on our radar, just the more and more that we do as a council and the bigger we get. But it's not one of our statutory responsibilities. So obviously the key thing is that Somerset County Council are responsible for anything that is safeguarding. So I think what the main thing is that it's making staff and councillors aware of safeguarding and to be more mindful of it. And then through myself and Kate, then we can help direct any queries or any issues that anyone sort of comes across and make sure it gets directed to the right person, which generally will be Somerset County Council, but of course if someone is very, very concerned, then obviously the advice is to phone the police. So post here, and if you all agree to the amendments, so I'd really like to encourage all staff and councillors obviously to read the policy just to be more mindful of safeguarding and what it entails, and obviously the reporting procedures as well. And as staff members, you've probably all heard of iHasco by now in lots of our updates, which is an online training platform that we have access to, and there's a really good couple of training options around children and young people and adults as well, that will make sure that all staff complete those. And then I am currently myself looking into some additional training which will give me a little bit more in-depth knowledge, just to make sure that we're all dotting the T's, dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Crossing our eyes.
There we go.
Drinking our tea.
Yeah, so I'm just looking into the right course for that, and then as soon as I find out the comments.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Thank you for the updates on the document and for highlighting them so clearly, because that's sometimes a bit of a mystery to try and see what's changed. That was really, really helpful. It is a really useful document, in part because it sets out the obligations, but also because it has those very practical things in different situations to be mindful of when you're working with the community and working with the general public. So thank you for that. Rich?
Yeah, it's not just about this, but thanks for doing it. But on the iHasco bit, so I did the first aid update recently. There's a few other little things on there. Goodness, are they open to councillors as well? Do we have to ask to do that?
I'm looking at Sarah because she's iHasco as well, but yeah, definitely.
Because I think there'll be a few things on there that a few councillors ought to have a look at and could benefit. So I might have a go at some of those.
Yeah, I'll sign you up.
So could we take that as an action, Sarah, just to sort of pass on to all the councillors the list of courses that we have available? Very good.
Yeah, can do.
It's one of those things, isn't it? You think you know it all, but it's good to remind yourself every so
It is, and they're quite nice because they're quite bite-sized and they're not time consuming, and you can keep coming back to them as well, so you don't have to sit down and do it in one big chunk as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
There's just a vote to approve the change.
Yeah, and just checking to see if anybody on Zoom has any questions or comments for Laura. All quiet? Okay, in which case can I have someone to propose approving the updates to the policy? Rich, thank you very much. And Sheila seconding, and all those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Great, thank you very much, Laura. And thank you all. Okay, on to number 4, which is handing over to Sarah for an update on Frome Town Council's financial position at the end of September.
So as I think I mentioned informally at the last meeting, we can now formally report that the external auditors, PKF Littlejohn, returned their satisfactory closure letter and Section 3 certificate to us on the 3rd of September, confirming that our submissions to them were in accordance with proper practices and no other matters of concern have come to their attention. A copy of the certificate, Section 3 of the AGAR, is available here to view for approval tonight. Congratulations again to Hannah for her bookkeeping throughout the year and for the first year drafting the annual return. We are halfway through the financial year and there are no major under or overspends currently expected by year end March 22. The one exception is that to date very little of the COVID-19 contingency budget has been used. We have some suggestions for use of these funds next year and we'll be discussing ideas with councillors during the 22-23 budget preparations. More good news is that the Unity Trust Bank now have the facility available to make bulk BACS payments, and once we have set up a current account with them, we'll trial the BACS upload from our accounting software. If the trial works well, we'll come back to councillors with a recommendation to move our current account over to Unity Trust Bank. Another year-end forecast will be provided in January 22. Any questions?
I will use my chair's privilege to thank you for preempting my question, which was based on a tweet from the Town Council earlier today, encouraging us all to change away from high street banks that invest in fossil fuels. And I thought, I must ask about the bank again. So that's great. Thank you for your persistence, and to everybody for persistence on that. And thank you and congratulations to you and Hannah for getting the books in order and getting us audited and approved. Any questions?
Oh.
I can see Anne, so I'm going to go to Anne first.
It's just allied to what you were just saying, Lizzie, about moving away from investments in fossil fuels. I have applied to be an employers member of the Somerset County Council Pension Board, which provides oversight of the Pensions Committee at Somerset County Council, which provides all of the pensions for Frome Town Council staff. And I am using that position to encourage the Somerset County Council Pensions Committee to look at the carbon intensity of all of their investments, and encouraging them to move to the lower carbon intensive portfolios that are at their disposal to invest in. So I'm trying my best to move them.
And I'll say thank you to Anne, because I know it's not been the easiest task, shall we say, and that there have been some hurdles that are not anything to do with pensions or pension policy, but about bureaucracy and meetings and admin that have been quite tiresome. So thank you for your persistence on that one. Rich.
Just to say really thanks for your perseverance and diligence, and work with councillors when they ask for advice and when they ask what does this mean, and what how much. You and Hannah between you seem to do a really good job, and you're always calm and you always come back with answers, so thank you for that, and long may it continue.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Okay, we have some recommendations. We can get those up onto the screen and we can have a look. We'll see if we can do them all as a big batch. There we go. The recommendations are to approve the external auditors report the notices of public rights, the income and expenditure sheet, the balance sheet, and the payments made over £500. Thank you. Can I have someone to propose that, please? And thank you very much. And second, Sarah. Just to change it up, I'm just going to go over there for a while. And all those in favour of approving the recommendations?
That's unanimous.
Thank you all very much. And thank you again, Sarah, and please pass on thanks to Hannah. Okay, sadly, we don't have Rachel here with us this evening to give us an update on what's been happening at the town hall, but we have Paul. So, Paul, what's been happening at the town hall?
Thank you, Lizzie. A very poor second. The report itemises quite clearly sort of an update on where we are with our tenants. That as we heard last time, why are moving out at the end of November.
No, they moved out last weekend.
The end of October, they moved out. I was away for a couple of days. And we've been jigging around other tenants moving around, and primarily to ensure that we have enough space and we can also accommodate as many tenants who want to come in. So it's a bit of sort of boxing and coxing here and there. Everyone seems to be happy at the moment. And that means that the town hall income is more or less on budget, actually, despite why moving out. And Rachel is reasonably content that we will be hitting our budget at the end of the year, which I think, given the circumstances I've been working under, I'm personally particularly pleased with, actually. So other bits and bobs, just an update on making sure the cleaning is done well, and just making sure that you know that it is. And there's a list there of the fabric of the building. The maintenance is ongoing. As you know, we had some problem with leaks in the storms. We think we've found those. They were faulty guttering, actually. The guttering had all rusted away on the inside of the building, so it flows into the gutter and straight down the wall. So that was an interesting thing to find out. But that's being dealt with, and the leading company who are going to do sort of leading around the where the walls join the roof, they're due to come on quite soon, I think. The last thing that's particularly important to me is that we've had more windproofing done of the windows. Drafting, that's the word I was looking for.
But yeah, same sort of thing, different scale.
And those rooms that we've had done are really, really good, actually. They've made a big difference, to the extent that actually we're a little bit hot quite a lot of the time now, which we're experimenting now with the boiler to try and get the right heat with the right circulation coming through. And I think Chris, your end of the house is okay on that sort of line? It's doing well? Keep the windows open. I mean, it's just important that with people in the office, we keep the drafts going through. But we've now draft proofed. So I think we're okay. And every day makes the town hall feel rather busier and more hub of the community, which is what we wanted it to be. And I feel as though we're getting back on track on that. So that was all from Rachel, really, just to sort of let you know what things are going on.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments?
It's only a comment. I noticed that you've employed a surveyor, I suppose, for the quennial survey. I do know him. He did work on our house, and then also we were buying our house. He did the survey for them. He's extremely thorough, which is great if you're buying a place. It's not so great. But that is very good. I can recommend him.
That's it's good to hear that he's very thorough.
Yeah.
He also did the first quinquennial for us. Yeah, nearly 5 years ago now. And that's why we went back to him, because he did a really good job and a very thorough job. And just in case people aren't sure what it means, the quinquennial is a 5-year survey that lists general maintenance that needs to happen in the following 5 years. So it keeps us on our toes, and when particularly Sean and Chris refer back to it, then everyone knows what's been done and what hasn't been done. Some of it's expensive, some of it's really, really, really quite cheap, but it's an important thing to have to do this. He's also looking at the state of the Elliott building in slightly more detail, because we're always worried that the life of the Elliott building is certainly less than the life of the town hall. So we need to make sure we're sort of planning right for that. But so far, so good.
Great, thank you. Any more?
Sheila, do you have a, yes, I can see a yellow hand on the iPad, but it's not on.
Oh, brilliant. Oh no, because Sheila's background is quite yellow, so it's squint carefully. There you go, Sheila.
Sorry about that. I'll have to change my decor for next time. I just really wanted to acknowledge we mentioned this last time, I think, at the last council matters, you know, the creativity and the sort of diligence of the staff that manage the town hall, and also Rachel, who sort of has the overview, is really impressive and is borne out by the figures. You know, as Paul says, it looks like the budget will be met. It won't be in the places, you know, the numbers won't exactly be in the places we, you know, predicted, but, you know, adapting and making the best of what we have is just so obvious and impressive. So I'd just like to formally acknowledge that.
Great, thank you, Sheila. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you, Substitute Rachel. I think we'll be hearing from you again later. But in the meantime, we're going to go to Chris now for an update on what's been happening in our parks and green spaces. Chris.
So yes, the standing update to this committee. I'll pick out a few highlights and notable things, if that's okay as well. So the report mentions preparations for Glow in the Park. That's obviously happened since then. So kind of I get the first opportunity to say thank you to everybody who was part of that, because it was an undertaking and wouldn't have happened without the community, without so many people getting involved. So yes, we were thrilled that that went off as well as it did. We've got two lovely circles of trees which combined kind of make the blossom circle at the show field as well, which is one of the things that we wanted to do to kind of mark some of the strangeness, some of the challenges, but also some of the better things to come from the last couple of years as well. Tiny Forest started work today at Eggford Lane. We've had people over there doing some of the digging ahead of tree planting, which is going to happen fairly soon as well. We've got some lovely bag dispensers in some of our parks and green spaces now for dog owners and dog walkers, just in case they forget a bag as and when they're out and about. And we've got we're doing some work with the police in terms of the events, but also we're now going to have a chat with them about the possibility of some CCTV for Victoria Park and Mary Bailey after some of the things that have happened over the last 18 months or so. And as suggested, kind of coming soon, we're into tree and hedge planting season. So Helen Viner will be out supporting all the community groups who've been successful in getting Woodland Trust tree packs. We've got, we think, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 trees to start planting in the next few weeks, which will be, again, quite an undertaking actually. And lastly, in terms of the report, I've added to the bottom the toilets project in Victoria Park. It's probably the kind of single biggest project that we've got going on. So we'll include that in the update each time. So it kind of keeps everybody a little better informed about where we are with that. But yeah, happy to take any questions as well.
Thank you very much. Glow in the Park, just wonderful awesomeness. Thank you all so much for the work that went into bringing all of that together. Sort of slightly heartbroken for Rachel that she didn't get to experience the thing that she was so involved in creating. But it was a really special day and a really special moment in the evening with the drone show. And I think Andy Rimore is on the call. So a big thank you again to him for having a random conversation with somebody and suggesting it and coming forward with an idea, because that to me is what Froome is about, is that possibility that you could go, we could do this thing. And about a year and a half later, the thing has happened under the most unexpected of circumstances. So thank you, Andy, for bringing it to our attention, really. There you go. A question on the subject of poo, because why not? Bag dispensers are very popular, it seems, with the dog walkers. Bins seem to be more of an issue. And there's a sort of occasional flurry of people, the bins are overflowing with poop. Any comment? I am not a dog owner. I am speaking on behalf of
I mean, the bag dispensers, it's kind of brilliant that they're being used so well, actually. When we put them in, the intention was perhaps trial it, because certainly I've done it in other places where I've worked, and actually what tends to happen is all the bags just get chucked out on minute one, and they're not used as they should be used. So actually, it's great. So certainly that might be something that we put in a few more parks and spaces that we've got as well. In terms of kind of bins, so the bins around the town are a combination. Some of them are ours and some of them are end of district councils. And you're right, kind of sometimes popular bins do get used an awful lot at weekends and things like that. So perhaps what would be helpful is if people kind of reported to us which bins and when that might be happening, then we can have a look at that in a conversation with the district council. The other thing that we can do again in conjunction with Mendip is to look at kind of the locations of bins, whether they're in the right places, and whether they're enough. I mean, there's probably a tipping point. We don't want to bin every 5 yards that we walk. They're expensive, if nothing else. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes just, you know, putting a bin in the right place can make all the difference. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Rob?
Yeah, in view of the impending demise of Mendip District Council and the popularity of dog poo as being one of our more popular questions from members of the public, I'm just wondering whether we shouldn't just negotiate with taking on looking after all of Mendip District Council's dog poo bins as one of our first and foremost requests for transfer of resources and from the district council to ourselves. It might save us a lot of trouble if it was there was some clarity about whose dog bin was owned by who. Thank you, Rob. Paul?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable suggestion, and I think when the time is right to have those discussions with the new unitary council, I think it would be certainly on the list of things that we want to talk to them about. It's made slightly complicated because there's an existing contract, as Chris explained, and that would need to be unpicked. But that doesn't mean to say it can't happen. But I think there's perfectly good reasons for us to explore taking on street cleansing generally in the town, and then everyone could come to us and we could, you know, act on it, as opposed to sort of sometimes sort of appearing to hide behind someone else's contract, which doesn't make anyone look good.
Thank you, Paul. Any more questions or comments? Rich?
Good comment, well done, Chris. It's still looking good out there. I quite like walking around through special parks because you come across things you haven't seen before, like new dog poo dispensers and also some nice new park benches I spotted on North Parade recently.
The North Parade benches,
really good. Yeah. So yeah, as I get older, you know, I'm very appreciative of that sort of thing. Well done, guys. Well done.
And again, actually, those benches in particular are kind of the product of conversations with the local community group that's helping us to look after the space. So they sort of said, we'll help you guys out a little bit. We'd quite like a bench. So
there are some really handsome benches. They're kind of sturdy. I love them. Sheila.
Hi. This isn't technically to do with the public space, well, the open spaces, but I just wonder whether this committee needs to include the Boyle Cross in its things that it reports regularly about. I mean, I'm particularly thinking of the fountain and needing a report back about why that fountain isn't working and how, you know, how stuff is going. But it is one of the spaces that we now own. So we have responsibility for actually how it functions. So I'm wondering whether this committee needs to include that in its reporting, and whether Chris can give a bit of a public feedback about what's going on with the fountain.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll do
getting
that, Sheila.
comments from shops, for instance, up Cheap Street all the time.
Yeah, we'll make sure that the Boyle Cross is a regular item in the update in future.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Now that we've got it, we'll just migrate it into this committee, which is great. Thank you. Do we have any update? I mean, Chris, Paul, do you know? Are you able to update us now on
why it's not working?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were having some challenges with the contractor, the expert contractor who was looking after the fountain. We got to a stage that that contract just didn't seem to be working very well for us. So we've cancelled that contract and we're just in the process of appointing somebody else to help the Rangers with the kind of the technical, slightly more involved side of looking after it. So the plan is that it will be up and working again fairly shortly. The likelihood is we will then turn it off again a little bit on purpose over Christmas time. But yeah, once that new contract's in place and we've got that kind of specialist knowledge to back up what the Rangers do, we'll have it back in operation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. One more from me about the amazing amount of trees that are being planted. And it's always the tree question, is ongoing kind of maintenance and care for those trees, and to what extent those plans have been put in place with the community groups to look after them so that we can kind of keep as many of them thriving for as long as possible.
So yeah, in terms of the numbers, quite a lot of those trees are going to be planted as hedgerows, actually, as it happens, which are, you know, it's still planting, it's still all the good things, and actually hedgerows are just incredibly good for wildlife in terms of getting it from A to B. So it's not going to be a case that we've got 3,000 brand new individual trees to look after. The Rangers are very adept at hedge cutting. In actual fact, the work is going to be, you know, obviously keeping them watered if we have kind of dry summers, things like that. So Helen's done some great work in terms of putting together community groups who are going to help us with the upkeep of these trees in the first few years while they're kind of establishing. And then the plan is obviously at some point that work will just kind of shift across to the Rangers. Well, other than actually, you know, to be fair, we can have community groups cutting our hedges too. So yes, we've got things in place for all of that, and kind of fingers crossed with, you know, regular ground conditions, regular climate, we'll be okay.
I think Andy here is quite keen to get going on the chainsaw and do a bit of hedge cutting by the look of it. Judging by that expression.
I already do, I just don't tell anybody.
Said a member of the public.
Sarah, we just had a little alert on the screen that said it was going to switch off power if you don't push a button.
The TV?
Yeah, I think so.
That should
I think
do
it just needed anything to just sort of say it's alive. Brilliant. Thank you. Unless there are any more questions for Chris just now. No, I can't see any more. Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back to you a little bit later on. And we will return to substitute Rachel. Paul, for an update on the work of the marketing and communications team.
Yes, it'll come as no surprise to observers of this council that a lot of work has been put into leading on the events that we've had most recently, particularly the Big Green Week and Glow in the Park, as we've seen earlier here. So yeah, a lot of the marketing and comms team have been focusing on that, and actually a lot of the whole of staff team have been focused on that. Within that, the website traffic, we always update this committee on website traffic and social media. And again, the big users on the website traffic were around Big Green Week and Glow in the Dark. So none of that's surprising, other than I think the numbers that we're managing to generate. And I think the new website, although we haven't said it here, I think the sort of the more accessible website and the refresh we gave it earlier in the year has really borne fruit on this. And those figures that appear in the report, I think actually a really good indicator of the reach we're getting into the community. And obviously it's not the only method that we use, but it is something that we put a lot of focus on. And it's doing well, I think. Some of the other big hitters was the work around the Find project, and I think that will continue to go from strength to strength as we hit sort of as the schools sort of hit their stride in a post-COVID environment. Touch wood. The social media channels are again doing really well. Lots of interest. Not surprising, Jill, on sort of what's going on at the post office and the co-op building. Lots of interest around Glow in the Dark and etc. And interestingly, sort of in the summer, when things usually go rather quiet, the traffic around sort of Get Outside campaign was really pleasing, because it's usually in the summer everyone goes away and nothing ever happens. That was quite the reverse this time, and our information going out is really useful on that. And I think those are the highlights I just wanted to share with you. Any questions I can try, although I can probably much easier take them back to Rachel and her team, but if there's anything there.
Fantastic. Rich?
Just quickly, for the Glow in the Park, have we got a feedback session planned, or do you want individual feedback? I mean, it was a great event.
Yeah, a bit of a debrief would be very useful. Yeah, to tell you the truth, I don't know at the moment, but I think it'll probably be a good thing that we do.
Yeah, we are organising that at the moment. So,
good, okay, cool.
We're involving everybody that was involved, so we'll be in touch with kind of volunteers, marshals fairly soon.
Great.
Special thanks to Rich for stepping in at the very last minute when he got there, not expecting to be a steward.
Oh, well, I did say if you want to be.
Just coincidentally showed up in his high vis.
Yeah.
Rob, I can see you popped up on the screen. Is that a question from you coming?
No, just
saying hello.
Hi.
Any other questions around marketing? Can't see any. So as Paul says, anything that you do want to follow up on or to ask more questions about, do have a chat with Rachel or potentially with Becky on the social media.
Yeah, if it's in the next few days, send them to me and I'll make sure it's fielded, because I'm not sure when Rachel's coming back.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. So we move on then to number 8, which is staff update, starters and leavers, which is back to Laura. And I'll extend my introduction slightly because she's just finishing the minutes from the previous bit. Laura, over to you.
Trying to like multitasking. There's not really anything to say, but it's just the general what's in the report. We've got a new member of staff joining us next week, resilience officer, which is quite exciting to have somebody else in the building. And then, yeah, as always, staff just continue to keep themselves up to date. I often find people volunteering themselves for this training and that training, and it really does pay off, I think. So that's that, really.
Can I add something?
Of course you can.
I just want to highlight the Phoebe, our Kickstart apprentice, and she did brilliantly, and we gained a lot from her, and hopefully she gained a lot from us as well. So it was a brilliant initiative, and I think, Chris, we're hoping to get another one next summer. Would that be the plan?
I think potentially, yeah, if the scheme's still running. Yeah, our feeling was having another apprentice over winter might be a little bit trickier in terms of kind of the work and kind of the supervision levels that the Rangers obviously have to give, and Dave in particular. So yeah, fingers crossed, if we can do it, we'll have somebody else come in, yeah, next spring, summer.
Any questions or comments? Rich? It's all right.
As
Wingman.
always, it's great to see staff get involved in training. You know, inset is always valuable, I think. I was asked by somebody if we could put on things like event organisers courses and things like that. Is there any chance that the town council could put on a few more of those so that other people in voluntary groups could build up the skills to run events as well? I don't know what the possibilities are, but something perhaps to look at in the future.
Yeah, I'll take that away and have a look.
Any particular sort of events that you're thinking?
No, it was somebody who was saying, "Oh, well, yeah, I'd quite like to do that." It was a slight knock at Frome Town Council because they said, "Well, all their staff are paid; they get paid to do that." I said, "Yeah, but they're trained." And said, "Well, perhaps we could make some training available for all the."
Well, we do it in so many other things, for particularly third sector groups in the town. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking there's already some information available on the sort of Close My Street.
I think it's a case of if you look, you find these courses, but I think they were sort of saying, well, could Frome Town Council offer anything a bit cheaper than anybody else? I don't know.
But what Andy's saying, I think, is there's quite a lot of stuff on our website already.
Yeah, there is,
to support road closures, for example. But we'll review that and have a look, see if we can add anything else.
Maybe I should get to look at.
And perhaps, I don't know if it's
Well, contact Hannah.
Yeah.
Good info. What's there?
Thank you for that. And possibly if you've got a communication planned out to the voluntary sector, third sector groups. So we've got the neighbourhood networks, obviously, but the other sort of charities and voluntary groups to sort of say, well, actually, are there things that they might be interested in? That's obviously raising some expectations that we might do something. But if you're comfortable, it's something that the town council could offer or could facilitate, then
I think Kate and the communities team have been doing that, and they have
Great.
been running street closure courses for residents.
Yeah.
So event
They have,
organisation is another
indeed,
step
yeah.
on.
I'd also just comment, I'm partway through another excellent course that FTC is hosting on governance for charities. So that's working out really well.
good. Thank you, Andy. Any other questions or comments around staff update? No, all good. In which case we come to our headline act, as always. Chris, with the health and safety update.
I was disappointed it's so short now in that case. Pleasingly short, there isn't too much to report. I suppose just draw attention to the fact that we are continually kind of reviewing our risk assessments for COVID-19 still in terms of staff coming into buildings and coming into work, and for things, meetings like this as well. In addition to that, not prompted by any kind of failings or issues of any sort, but Dave and I are going to be doing some work looking at kind of keeping the Rangers particular safe in the work that they're doing. We feel it's a good opportunity for us kind of before Christmas to just make sure that there's no kind of bad habits have crept in, there's no complacency, and that we're kind of up with best practice and everything. So that will be some quite involved work there as well, just to keep us safe and sensible. And so future reports like this are nice and short. So, but happy to answer any questions on it.
Does anybody have a question for Chris about the health and safety update? Apart from congratulating him and everybody on having a short health and safety update, because that's what we want, really, isn't it? That means all of the other stuff, wonderful stuff that you do in terms of risk assessments and training and the thoughtfulness you put into it is working. Touch wood. Great. Okay. That's it, folks. I might have just stolen Sarah's kind of speed record. I didn't mean to.
You totally have. My championship whipped out from under my very eyes. It's because I haven't got my glasses, isn't it? I just wasn't.
You should have asked more questions, and then it would have carried on for longer, and you'd have been safe in your record.
I tried.
I'll allow it, Lizzie. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Pure skill, Lizzie. Pure skill.
No, it's the pure skill of the council team for just being brilliant at what they do.
Very succinct and informative this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I have not
just mentioned,
Jill, yes, of
how
course.
did you, before the meeting closes, how did you feel that the independent market went on its resurrection after such a long gap?
I was there. It seemed to go really well.
Yeah,
It was packed.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
It was packed.
Yeah, it was.
Brilliant, absolutely, yeah.
It was good to see. I mean, I'm a big fan, so I like it. I think it's great.
Were you, I know it's all in the open air, but were you perturbed by the lack of wearing masks?
No,
No,
not outside.
no.
But they're in very close quarters with one another, whether you're outside or not. I know it's, you're fairly safe when you're out in the fresh air, but there were a lot of people and nobody was wearing a mask except me.
I've just come back from Scotland and everybody wears masks still in shops. I still wear masks in shops.
I wear my mask all the time, except obviously in here, but when I'm out and about, yeah. Anyway, we've got the second market on Sunday.
We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it will be just as successful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sheila's got a hand up.
Sheila, thank you.
I wanted to respond to Jill. I mean, it's a very personal choice, really, and that's the issue now, is that wearing masks is a personal choice. It's not something we can enforce. And if you feel anxious at the number of close proximity of people at an event like the independent market, I mean, the independent market does try and make it on its social media. It asks people to be careful and to even have a test before they come to the market. So, they do try and do that. And I think, I mean, I don't know whether any of the other councillors want to make a comment about that, but I think it is a personal choice, and that's as far as we can go, really.
But we do have to be aware that the numbers are very high in this area.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. And
I think we have to be totally cautious at all times. Yes.
I would agree with you, Jill, but it's not everybody does, and it's not something we can enforce. We can simply say, raise awareness, and that's what we do. And I think the independent market does as well.
Anne?
As it's come up, I ought to declare that I am a director of the independent market, and Jill, yes, it's an issue. It's we're coming out of lockdown, and it is a personal choice. And I think come early when it's maybe quieter, and when it's less likely to be as crowded, if you're at all worried. But I wear a mask when I'm close to other people. I wore a mask at the Glow in the Park because I knew there would be a lot of people around. And I know a mask protects others perhaps more than it protects me, but it's just something that I feel comfortable with. So I'm continuing to wear a mask even when I'm outside, when I know I'm going to be close to other people. But it's absolutely a personal choice now.
Thank you for that. Okay, on that note, I will remind you that the next meeting of Council Matters will be 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 9th of February, 2022, which, on behalf of Council Matters, Happy New Year. Let's get that one in early. Everybody stay safe, keep others safe, and enjoy the independent market this weekend, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thanks.